The house is finally quiet. The whirlwind of school runs, soccer games, and late-night talks has settled into a profound silence. For 20 years, you were mom or dad. It was your most important job, your core identity. But now, who are you? What if this terrifying emptiness isn't something to be feared, but a long-awaited invitation? An invitation to finally meet the person you set aside all those years ago. Let's explore the empty nest not as a loss, but as the beginning of your most important journey. Here is the truth no one tells you about the empty nest. Your identity as a full-time parent is supposed to crumble. This identity crisis isn't a sign that you did something wrong. It is a sign you did everything right. According to the great psychologist Carl Jung, the collapse of a dominant life role is the soul's way of clearing the stage for your true self to finally step into the spotlight. This video is not about coping with sadness. It is about answering a sacred calling. A calling to shift from a life of caregiving for others to a life of deep, soulful discovery for yourself. We will reframe this painful transition as a necessary rite of passage into the rich, meaningful second half of your life. Your grief is real, but it is also the prelude to your rebirth. Your story isn't over. The most interesting chapter is just about to begin. The silence is not empty. It is full of the ghosts of a former life, the echo of laughter in a hallway, the memory of small shoes by the door, the phantom weight of a head on your shoulder. Before we can see this moment as an invitation, we must first honor it as a death. It is the death of a role, and the grief is real. For 18, 20, 25 years, you have worn the most demanding, all-consuming, and beautiful mask of all, the persona of the parent. We have spoken of the persona before, the social mask we wear to navigate the world. For most of us, this one was the heaviest and the most meaningful. It was not just a role you played. It became, for many of us, the very center of our identity. The answer to the question, "Who am I?" was simple. I am a mother. I am a father. This persona was a magnificent achievement of the first half of life. It required you to build a nest, a container of safety and love. It demanded sacrifice, patience, endless giving. And you did it. You poured your life force into this grand project. You succeeded. The nest is full. The birds have learned to fly. And now, the silence. This is the collapse of the achievement, the success that feels like a profound failure. Because the emptiness you feel is not just about missing them. It is a fundamental identity crisis. When the main character you have played for decades leaves the stage, who are you? When the primary function of your life is complete, what is your purpose now? Let me tell you about a woman I spoke with, Susan, 52 years old. Her youngest son had just left for college. She told me, "I remember standing in his empty bedroom. The silence was so loud, it was deafening. I felt this bizarre mix of immense pride and a terrifying, hollow sense of purposelessness. It felt like my story was over." Her story was not over, but the story of that specific character, the mom, was. This is the great, painful, and necessary work of this transition. It is to grieve the role, not just the physical presence of your children. To grieve the loss of daily purpose, the loss of being needed in that specific, urgent way, the loss of the beautiful, exhausting rhythm of school runs and packed lunches and bedtime stories. But the silence holds more than just grief. It holds secrets. It is a doorway into the work of the shadow. Think about it. To be a good parent, what other parts of yourself did you have to put on a shelf? What dreams were exiled into the basement of your psyche so that you could have the energy to raise your children? The artist who never had time to paint, the musician whose guitar gathered dust in the attic, the scholar who dreamed of going back to school, the adventurer who put their travel maps away, the entrepreneur who shelved a business idea. These are not lost dreams. They are sleeping energies. They are the ghosts in the silence, the forgotten parts of you that were sacrificed on the altar of the parent persona. And now, in the quiet of the empty nest, their whispers can finally begin to be heard again. This is why this moment is so destabilizing and so potent. The collapse of your primary persona creates a vacuum, and into that vacuum, the contents of your shadow begin to emerge. The unlived lives, the forgotten passions, the neglected parts of your own soul. They are not here to haunt you. They are here to reclaim you, to invite you home to a version of yourself that has been waiting patiently for decades. So if you are standing in that quiet house, feeling lost, feeling purposeless, feeling like your best days are behind you, I want you to hear this. You are not in an ending. You are in an initiation. The emptiness is not a void. It is an opening, a sacred space being cleared for the second and perhaps most meaningful journey of your life to begin.
What if your grief is also a graduation? This is the radical reframing that changes everything. It is where we move from seeing this emptiness as a problem to be solved to seeing it as a passage to be honored, a sacred, necessary, and life-giving transition. Your identity crisis is not a sign that you did something wrong. It is a sign that you did everything right. You built the nest. You raised the young. You taught them to fly. Your work, in that specific form, is complete. And the collapse of that role is not a tragedy. It is a triumph. Carl Jung spoke of the two halves of life. The first half of life, the morning, is about building the ego. It is about engaging with the outer world, establishing our career, our social standing, and, for many, raising the next generation. It is a journey of expansion, of doing, of giving outward. But the second half of life, the afternoon, has a different task, a different direction. It is a call to turn inward, to cultivate the soul, to ask not what the world needs from you, but what your deeper self needs from you. This is the journey of individuation, the journey of becoming whole. And the empty nest is the universe's powerful, unmistakable, and often painful signal that it is time for the second journey to begin. The stage has been cleared. The audience has gone home. And now, in the quiet of the empty theater, a new protagonist is being invited to step forward. You. Let me tell you about a man named Robert, a 55-year-old accountant. For 30 years, his identity was dad and provider. His life was a predictable rhythm of work, coaching his kids' soccer teams and family vacations. When his last child left for university, he fell into a quiet depression. The house felt pointless. He felt pointless. During our work, I asked him about the ghosts in his silence. What parts of him had been put on a shelf? he was quiet for a long time. And then he said a word I did not expect. Geology. He told me that as a young man, he had been fascinated by rocks, by the story of the earth. He had dreamed of being a geologist, of hiking, of exploring the wild places. But accounting was the sensible path, the responsible choice for a provider. He hadn't thought about that dream in 30 years. It was a ghost so old, he had forgotten its name. The emptiness he was feeling was not just the absence of his children, it was the presence of his own unlived life finally making itself known. His soul was not asking him to get his children back. It was asking him to get his hiking boots back. Pause here for a moment. If you could hear a whisper from your own forgotten garden, what passion is it calling by name? Share one word in the comments. Simply naming it gives it life. This is the profound opportunity hidden within the pain of the empty nest. It is a forced confrontation with the self. The question is no longer, what do my children need today? The question becomes, what does my soul need to feel alive? The question shifts from, how do I fill my time, to, how do I fill my life with meaning? This is not an easy transition. The ego will resist it. The parent persona, which has been in charge for so long, does not want to retire. It will tell you that you are being selfish. It will try to fill the silence with more doing, more busyness, more worrying about your adult children. It will do anything to avoid the terrifying, liberating work of asking, who am I now? But the soul is patient. The silence will remain. The emptiness will continue to echo, not to punish you, but to invite you. To invite you to turn your loving attention from the nest that is now empty to the soul that has been waiting. This is not the epilogue of your story. It is the beginning of Act 2. And the script for this act is not written by your roles or society's expectations. It is written, line by line, by the whispers of your own deepest truth. The question is, how do you begin to hear them? How do you start this archaeological dig into your own forgotten self?
To answer the soul's calling is not to make a grand 5-year plan. It is to take one small, courageous step back towards yourself. If you're feeling completely lost in the silence of your new life, that is okay. You are an explorer who has just landed on the shore of a new continent, the continent of me. And you do not need a map for the whole territory. You only need a compass for the next step. So let's talk about those first gentle, practical steps. The first is an active memory of reclamation. It is a journaling practice I call the archaeological dig. This is where we begin to gently brush the dust off the person you were before you became a full-time parent. Find a quiet hour, open a notebook, and begin to ask yourself these questions. Let the pen flow without judgment. Before I was a parent, what made my heart sing? What did I love to do just for the pure, simple joy of it? What dreams did I put on a shelf, telling myself, someday? Who were my heroes? What qualities did I admire in them? What subjects did I love to learn about? What did I want to be when I grew up? Let's go back to Susan, the woman standing in her son's empty room. When she first did this exercise, her mind was blank. It was as if her pre-mother self was a stranger from a past life. But she stayed with it. And then a memory surfaced. Small, seemingly insignificant. She remembered being 22, spending an entire Saturday in a darkroom developing her own black and white photographs. She remembered the smell of the chemicals, the magic of an image appearing on the paper.
the feeling of losing all track of time. She hadn't held a real camera in 25 years. That memory was the first clue, the first thread to pull. The second practice is an act of courage. It is what I call the solo date. For so many years, your time has been structured around the needs of others. This practice is about carving out a small, non-negotiable appointment with yourself. It does not need to be elaborate. Take yourself out for a coffee. Go for a walk in a park you've never been to. Visit a museum. Browse a bookstore. The only rule is that the sole intention of this date is to get to know this new, emerging person, yourself. Pay attention. What catches your eye? What conversation do you overhear that sparks your interest? What do you feel drawn to? Susan's first solo date was terrifying. She sat in a cafe for 20 minutes, feeling awkward and self-conscious. She almost left 3 times. But then she noticed a flyer for a beginner's photography class. And she felt a flicker, a tiny spark of the girl in the darkroom. She took the flyer. That was the second clue. The final practice is a symbolic act of transformation. It is the art of reclaiming sacred space. Your child's old room is a potent space. It is full of memory and grief, and it is important to honor that. This is not about erasing them. It is about reconsecrating the space for your own becoming. It could be a small corner, bringing in a comfortable chair and a small table to create a reading nook. It could be clearing a wall to hang your own art. Or it could be a full transformation, turning the room into a yoga space, a library, a workshop, an art studio. For Robert, the accountant who dreamed of geology, his first step was simple. He went to his son's old room, cleared the desk, and placed one single beautiful rock he had found on a family vacation years ago. He bought a small magnifying glass and a book on local geology. That corner became his sanctuary, his sacred space for the second journey. It was a physical manifestation of the inner shift, a declaration that this space and this life was now also for him. These practices, the archaeological dig, the solo date, and reclaiming sacred space, they are not about filling the emptiness. They are about planting seeds in it. They are how you begin the dialogue with your own soul, and how you begin to build a new identity, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. An identity sourced not from your role for others, but from your own deepest truth.
It is not an empty nest. It is an open horizon. This is the final, powerful reframing. The journey we have explored is a profound one. It is the shift from a life defined by your role for others to a life defined by your relationship with yourself. It is not a lesser life. It is a different life, a deeper life. One where the measure of a successful day is not how much you did for everyone else, but how truly you connected with your own soul. This new chapter is a movement from a life of caregiving to a life of creation, creating a new identity, creating new meaning, creating a new relationship with the quiet, wise, and wild parts of you that have been waiting in the wings. This is the great work of the second half of life. It is the journey inward, the journey home, and it does not require you to have all the answers. It only requires your curious, compassionate attention. The silence in your house is no longer an enemy to be feared. It is a sanctuary to be entered, a sacred space where you can finally hear your own true name. So as we close this exploration, I invite you to a small act of reclamation. In the comments below, share one dream, hobby, or passion that you put on hold while raising your children. It could be anything. learning to paint, traveling to a specific place, writing a book, planting a garden. Simply naming it here is the first powerful step to bringing it back to life. Let's build a community of Second Life adventurers together. This journey of answering the soul's call is not always a quiet one. Sometimes the invitation is not a gentle whisper in an empty house. Sometimes it is a deafening scream. A body and a mind that have been pushed too far for too long in the service of a life that is no longer authentic. A state of profound, soul-level exhaustion that no amount of sleep can fix. A state we call burnout. In our next journey together, we will decode the sacred, urgent, and often painful message hidden within your burnout. Because your exhaustion is not a weakness. It is a message.